welcome to the Effective Business Analyst, part of the Meirc webinar series. My name is Mohammed Nayal. I am a partner at Meirc, and I'm excited to share with you today takeaways from my years of experience working as an advisor with both the public sector and private sector entities in the region, where I help them develop strategies in different areas. Just a quick summary of my background. I started my education in engineering and then transitioned over the years into strategy, where I worked in the financial sector with HSBC America. I also co-founded a startup called Correlation that developed data mining tools, and I worked in consulting with McKinsey. After working in the private sector, I worked in the government of Abu Dhabi and Dubai, most recently as an advisor in the executive office of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. So analyzing and solving problems is an area that I am passionate about, and I hope to share that passion with you in the next slides. So what will we be talking about today? Well, our agenda will focus on the following. First, I will give a brief overview on the changing role of the analyst and the characteristics that successful analysts have. Next, I will go through an overview of problem solving, which is a critical part of the analyst's job. And I will also talk about the importance of critical thinking. And then I will talk about the steps that analysts should take in the process of problem solving. This should take us about 20 minutes. So during the webinar, I will be asking you a series of questions, and I would appreciate it if you could type your answer into the chat box. So I actually just want to test right now if you can hear me and if you can use your chat pod. So if you can hear me, can you please type in your favorite color? All right. Thank you. I see red, green, black. All right. Yes, that's my favorite color too. Black also. All right. Thank you very much. The first question that I want to ask you is, for you, what does business analysis mean? If you could type in your answer in the chat pod, please. Forecasting. All right, good, very good. Definitely that's a part of business analysis, although it is a part though. What else? Gathering information, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, gathering information is a big part of business analysis, documents, stakeholders. All right, so there are many things that need to be done in business analysis. Oh, let us talk a little bit about what business analysis is. So business analysis is about the practice of change and change in an enterprise, and you start that by defining the needs of the stakeholders and recommending solutions that deliver value. And business analysis also enables a company or an enterprise to clearly articulate its needs and why change should happen. And then you design and describe those solutions that can deliver actual value. But it also can be used to understand the current state, to define the future state, and to determine activities that are needed to move from current to the future state. Because it's all about change right now. Oh, the process of change is happening quicker and quicker. There are many companies that used to be quite famous and they no longer exist. So what comes to mind for companies that used to be great and don't exist anymore? If you could type in your answer, I'm just curious to find out what you think. Yes, absolutely. I think most people say Nokia at the beginning. And what do you think led to Nokia's destruction? Yeah, well, I think that's right. I mean, they are making a comeback, but actually, they were forced to sell to Microsoft, and then they're making a comeback. But I think the only people who are buying Nokia phones are just people who miss the past. So they didn't adapt the smartphone yet. I mean, basically, they didn't change. They didn't change with the times. So who is a business analyst then? Well, a business analyst is somebody who helps with change. They're responsible for discovering, synthesizing, and analyzing information, just of course, as you said, but they look at it from a variety of sources within the company, within an enterprise. So they have tools, they look at different processes, they look at documentation, they work with the stakeholders, they try to understand the stakeholders. So actually, if you think of the skills needed for a business analyst, there are quite a lot of skills that are needed because the BA, the business analyst, is responsible for actually gathering the needs of stakeholders. And that means that they have to play a role of an investigator. They have to get clarity from people because people don't always know what they want and can't always describe what they want clearly. So the activities is understanding problems, goals, analyzing needs and solutions, devising strategies, and working with change, and also making sure that there is stakeholder collaboration. So if I wanted to ask you then, what do you think that the business analyst, what are some of the skills needed to be a good business analyst? So let me give you an example. Do you think that communication is an important skill to have for analysts? And type in yes or no. Yes, absolutely. What else? Anything else that you can think of? Yep, communication is key, absolutely. Any other skills that a business analyst should possess? Yes, they should be smart, creative, very good. Should they be detail oriented? No, not detail oriented. Yes, of course. Right. Good, very good. All right, so there are a lot of skills that business analysts should have. And what I will show you now is just some of the things, the skills that good professional business analysts have. Communication, being able to work within a team, self-management, somebody who can motivate themselves and have initiative and not necessarily depend on the environment, because it is difficult to have somebody motivate you all the time. And critical thinking and professionalism. Now, critical thinking is something that I will concentrate on in this webinar, just to talk to you a little bit about the difficulties being a good business analyst. Now, business analysts are becoming quite important, and this importance is actually growing. So what business analysts around the world have done is join this nonprofit organization, professional association, that's called the IIBA, International Institute of Business Analysis. And this is similar to other nonprofit professional associations that work in terms of strategy or project management. Now, you've all heard of the PMP, the project management professional, and now there are different certifications that the IIBA give. And later on in this webinar, we'll talk about some of the IIBA courses at Meirc that are endorsed by IIBA. Let's talk a little bit about critical thinking. If somebody asked you what critical thinking was, how would you explain it? What is critical thinking? Right, I see people typing. I'll wait for your answer. So good thinker, being able to solve problems. Absolutely, yes. Understanding what is being done and trying to come up with the best way to improve or update. Okay, good. Very good. So I think all of these things are quite important. I think a critical thinker also is somebody who's very good at analyzing information and being able to go into detail and think about what is the data really telling me? What should be done after this? Let me give you a good example, right? The so what of data analysis is something that is quite important for a business analyst to have. That the business analyst always gather information, they present it, they analyze it, but that's not always a straightforward process. Let me explain to you a little bit what the so what is. A business analyst goes and collects a lot of information. This information is raw, it's not in a way that people understand it, it's very unordered. Now, what you can do at the first level is you can do a summary. You can say, well, what I've done is I've collected all this data and present it in a nice professional way, and people are happy. But good business analysts synthesize data and they push their thinking further. And they ask questions. What do these facts and findings tell me? And that's called the so what. So let me give you an example. Let's say that I went into my colleague's office and he looked quite nervous. And I asked him, what's wrong? What's going on? And he says, well, I have a flight in 45 minutes. I'm quite late. I can't find my passport. I can't find my keys. And by the way, I'm really late on my project. So how would you summarize what this person has said? Summarize this for me, please type it up, the summary. Yes, no preparation at all. All right. Okay, good. Anyone else? He is being sloppy. All right, good. So a good on all levels. Person is not organized. All right, good. So what you've done here is actually a synthesis. The synthesis says that this person is not organized and has to do something about it. A summary would basically just say that you've lost your keys, your passport, and you're late on a project and a flight. It's basically taking 3-4 sentences and putting them in another way. Well, summaries are okay, but they're not really what people want. So being not organized and being sloppy on all levels, that's a okay synthesis. But I want you to push your thinking further. What would you tell my colleague? Okay, good. How can I help you? Plan. Yes, all right, good. So what you would tell him after helping him, of course, he's probably going to miss his flight anyway. There's no way to get to the airport within 45 minutes and actually check in. What you would tell him is that you really need to plan and you need a time management course. So where would you suggest that he take a time management course at? Give me the name of a company that gives good time management courses. Yes, all right, thank you. You get 10 points, Amir. Thank you very much. All right, good. So this is basically it. Somebody gives you facts, says, I've lost my keys, passport, oops, I'm late on a certain project. The summary is you just say it in a simpler way or use less words. But the synthesis is that this person is absent-minded or sloppy and should take, the second level is should take a time management course, preferably at Meirc. Of course, there are other providers too. Let me give you another example about asking, so what? Now take a look at this data here. This is from which type of company do you think this is? Samsung? Okay. Yes, maybe. Samsung, yes, you're thinking. Although Samsung doesn't sell video consoles. LG, Sony, Microsoft. All right, you're all good. But this is actually from a electronics shop. This is a retailer who sells different things. It sells TVs, computers, video consoles, and other things. But you're right, it could be Sony, LG, or whatever. All right, so what does this data tell you? You're a business analyst and you have collected this information. So type in, think a little bit about it and type in your answer. Sales growth, yes, all right, good. But go into a little bit more detail. Decline in demand for TV, okay, good. Yes, smartphones are high in demand in 2018, absolutely. All right, so anybody else? All right, so what you've done, if you said that there's a decline in demand for TV and smartphones are high in demand, that is a summary. If you say stock more phones, that actually is a synthesis because what you've done is a so what. All right, so what would you say? Would you all agree that we should invest heavily in smartphones? We should actually try to put more people on it and really try to go out there and find more smartphones to sell. Yes or no? Yes, invest more. Good. Yes, absolutely. Anyone else? Yes or no? What about the rest? We'll get to the rest, but what about smartphones? Ah, not necessarily. Okay, good. If you said invest in smartphones, it might be the wrong thing. Now remember this data. This says that smartphones grew by 25%. You should really focus on smartphones. Let me give you the next page and actually see what this data tells you. Look at this information now. What does this information tell you? The profit of smartphones is very low. This is percent profit. This is basically all of their profit, and what they're looking at is how much comes from computers, how much comes from TVs, how much comes from smartphones. Okay? Profit margins for computers are bigger. Now, let me ask you, if you had this information going back, would you say that we should heavily invest in smartphones? Yes or no? No. No? No. Good. Very good. So this is what I mean by being a critical thinker, is asking, being a little bit skeptical and asking questions and say, is this data really enough for me to come up with a complete picture? Is there something else that I'm missing? And if you can do that, you can add a lot of value to your organization. Well, let me give you another example. And now I want you to be a little bit skeptical, all right? A little bit questioning and say, what is this information really telling me? So here's a chart that says that in 2000, in the year 2000, we had 12,000 car accidents on our roads. In 2015, it has more than doubled to 27,000, much more than a 2x. And this data is reliable. It comes from the Statistics Center and the Department of Transportation. Therefore, the so what is that our roads are more dangerous and the chief of police should be fired. Yes or no? No, no, no. Ah, all right. So the answer, it's a trick question. The answer is not yes or no. More info is needed. And I saw people say, what's the ratio, right? So here's a maybe. We don't know. What else are we missing? We need to look at the number of cars exactly. Now, let me show you. So before you say that the chief of police should be fired, which is actually quite a big thing that you're recommending, take a look at this data. The number of registered cars has gone from 500,000 to 2 million in the same time period. So it has risen by 4x. Would you still fire the chief of police? No. One answer from Maruf saying no. Yes, no. Good. No. Good. Very good. You wouldn't. What is the one chart that you would present to the Prime Minister to talk about this? I want you to combine both charts into one thing. What would you say that I would need? Percentage of accidents per registered cars. Absolutely, yes. And this is the type of chart. I wouldn't even present the first chart and the second chart. What I would present is something like this. I would take the number of car accidents, divide it by the number of registered cars, and I would get something like 2.5%. And then I would look at it in 2015, and I would find actually that number has gone down. Of course, we still have accidents. That doesn't mean we don't do anything about it and we celebrate. It means that we're actually getting safer. And the thing is that actually the chief of police is probably doing a good job. And this is where the value of analysts come in, is that they don't necessarily jump to conclusions right away, but they go out and they look for the different type of data. This is one of the things that business analysts should possess. The other thing that I want to talk about a little bit, and we don't have too much time left, so I'm going to go very quickly about this, is problem solving. Problem solving is a difficult thing to do because problems are not necessarily the same as others. And the good business analysts are those who follow a certain process. And that process begins with problem definition. defining what are we really working on. Because one of the worst things that can happen is that people can work on on a thing for 3 months, and then they come back and the stakeholder says, this is not what I asked for. And it's probably happened with many of you. So let's say that your manager comes to you and he says, I want you to do an analysis on free zones in Dubai. What would you do? So type in your answer, please. What's the specific requirement? What's the question, please? Yes. All right. So what you would do before going out and doing a situation analysis and data gathering. So I'll repeat it because I think some people missed it, is that let's assume that your manager comes to you and says that I would like you to do an analysis and give me a report on free zones. Right? Those are places where there are no taxes and companies can set up and they can get 100% of their profit. So there are many of them in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, other places around the world. Before jumping in and doing a situation analysis, you need to actually go back to your boss, to your manager, and figure out what is he asking? What does he really want? Does he want a one-page report where you actually gather information from the internet, or does he want you to pick up the phone, do a benchmarking trip, and write a report of 30 pages? Now, why didn't your manager actually specify what he wants in the beginning? Could have very easily. Okay, good. He doesn't know it. Yes, he doesn't know what to ask for. Very good. That's a good answer. Some of the times, the manager doesn't really know. So it's your job as an analyst to write down and to say, Mr. Manager, this is what I think you want. I am going to do a report that's going to take me 2 weeks. I'm going to do a benchmarking trip. I am going to interview people and write a report of 20 pages. And most likely the manager will say, good, very good, this is exactly what I want, or no, this is not what I want, but let me tell you, let me be a little bit more clearer. So unfortunately, when the manager is not clear, whose fault is that? Type in your answer. Yes, absolutely. It's your fault. If you're the analyst and your manager isn't clear and you're not clear, it's your fault. Okay, good. So in our different courses, we go through the in our different IIBA endorsed courses, we go through the problem solving process, and actually we look at a case, and over 5 days we solve that using this. So I spoke a lot about IIBA, and that's because we are a endorsed education provider and we have different endorsed courses. And let me give you a example. We have one course that's called the Effective Analyst from Research to Execution. That's going to be from the 20th to the 24th of October in Dubai. Another course that we have is analytical thinking and evidence-based decision making. That is also an endorsed course, and that is going to be in September. And another course that we have is building and presenting a powerful business case. It's about collecting the data, figuring out what you're going to say, and convincing stakeholders. So I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for joining us on this webinar, and we hope to see you in some of our courses in the future. Thank you very much.
Meirc.com